Hello. Some people have asked why I don't answer more questions on Facebook. Richard Shepherd was asking that recently, so I thought I'd just come on and answer some of the questions you've been asking about the budget, both what's in the budget and our response to it. And Cash Wilder has asked about what a green budget, a Liberal Democrat green budget, would look like. I mean, there are many aspects to it, of course, in addition to our view that we shouldn't be pouring billions of pounds of money into nuclear energy, but instead into renewables, green technologies, energy efficiency, in addition to our view that we need to look very, very long and hard at the road building programme budget. We need to certainly stop Heathrow expansion. I think for this budget, what we would have advocated, and I said this to Alistair Darling and Gordon Brown yesterday, is look, don't waste billions of pounds of our money on a VAT cut that doesn't produce a single job, that is here today, gone tomorrow, when that money could be so much better spent on creating jobs today, but also creating the green infrastructure that the country needs of tomorrow. We've calculated that if Alistair Darling had announced yesterday that he was going to stop the VAT cut, he would have about £8.5 billion to invest in social housing, insulating homes, insulating every school and hospital in the country, reopening railway lines, buying new railway carriages. In other words, creating jobs today, but creating the green Britain of tomorrow. Darryl Goodliff asked quite rightly about tax cuts. Why did we not hear anything about tax cuts yesterday from the government, only about tax rises? I mean, I think the government's come up with the worst of all worlds. It's come up with these gimmicks, the 50% upper rate tax, which barely raises any money at all, is gimmicks to look as if it's doing something fair and progressive in the tax system, while actually not giving any money back to the people who really need help. The millions and millions of people on ordinary incomes who for years have been paying through the nose in tax, whilst people at the top and big businesses have been able to run a coach and horses through the tax system. So our plan, I think it's a really, really bold and exciting one, which myself and Vince Cable announced on Monday this week, is to close all those huge loopholes and exemptions. One of the most notorious one, perhaps, is the fact that if you're a multimillionaire now, you can pay yourself capital gains in income, in effect, but only pay 18% on that capital gains, even though now you'll be paying 50% on the rest of your income. So I think the government has actually created an incentive for people at the top to avoid tax even more than before. Close all those loopholes, stop big companies from avoiding stamp duty, and use all that money, pound for pound, to lift 4 million of the lowest paid people out of income tax altogether by lifting the income tax threshold, the allowance, up to £10,000 for everybody, and that would give the vast majority of taxpayers a £700 tax cut. I think that's a really progressive, bold approach, which I am really, going to shout loud and often about in the months to come. Stephen John Harry asked what we would have done differently. Well, I've mentioned some of the things. The VAT cut would have stopped that, invested it in the green Britain we need of the future and in jobs. The tax approach, rebalancing the tax system, giving people money back, not simply constantly leeching money away from them. But I think it's a bigger long-term question, which is this. Clearly, the government's finances are in a complete and utter mess. Clearly, some very, very difficult decisions are going to have to be taken about how we bring order and balance back to the government's books. I'll tell you how you don't do it. You don't do it by doing what the Conservatives want to do, which is cut right now and next year when the economy might still be in recession. Because if you do that, you might actually stop the economy getting back on its feet just as it's struggling to get off the floor. You have to get growth going again. So my view is, because without growth, there's no money to spend on anything, and you certainly can't spend money on repaying debt. So my view is, first concentrate on getting growth going. Don't pull the rug out from under the British economy just as it's struggling to get onto its feet. But once growth has got going again, hopefully in the years ahead, then we're going to have to ask ourselves big questions about what the state can and cannot afford. Can we afford, for instance, to send 50% of our school leavers to university? Can we afford all our big multi-billion pound defence ambitions? Can we afford to provide well-paid people in the public service the very generous pensions they've got at the moment? Is that fair? Is that sustainable? Is that affordable? We need to ask those big questions, have a national debate about what we can and cannot afford as a country, not this totally artificial debate between David Cameron and Gordon Brown of salami slicing Whitehall budgets, so-called efficiency savings on paper clips in Whitehall. That's a nonsense. We've got to have an open, honest debate about what the country can afford in the future. Final question. Jacqueline Baxter asked if I speak any Welsh. I speak French. My German's a bit rusty, but I used to speak pretty good German, Spanish, Dutch, but not Welsh, which was a pity because I was in Cardiff at the Liberal Democrat Welsh Conference, very successful one. Kirsty Williams leading the party brilliantly in Wales just this weekend. Maybe I should pick up some phrases in Welsh in the future.